Hello, everyone. Hello, Patty. How are you today?
I'm doing great.
Hello, LinkedIn world, and wherever you happen to be watching this video. My name is Bernadette Smith. I am CEO of Equality Institute. And Patty, would you like to introduce yourself?
I am Patti Flynn, and I am Senior DEI Strategy Consultant at Equality Institute.
Welcome to Five Things in 15 Minutes. So every Monday afternoon, Patty and I gather, or I join with another special guest, and we talk about five things in 15 minutes. And these five things are stories that I consider to be inspirational or somehow give me joy or hope related to diversity, equity, and inclusion or corporate social responsibility. I find these stories every week and I send them out in a newsletter that goes out on Saturday mornings called Five Things. And my goal is to bring good vibes to DEI because there's a lot of negative stories out there. There's a lot of stories about things that are going wrong, negative data. And I believe in the aspirational stuff. I want to be, that's how I am personally motivated. And I hope that's what inspires you as well. So you can join the newsletter at theequalityinstitute.com/join for some good vibes every Saturday morning, and then connect on LinkedIn for the live show on Monday afternoons or rewatch the replay. So thank you for joining us. And so today, Patty, we're going to start by talking about Ted Lasso. You watch the show?
I do, although I haven't hit season 2 yet, and I know that this is a season 2 episode, so I'm going to spoiler it for myself, or you spoiled it for me. But I'm a big fan of psychological safety and promotion of psychological safety, and so like this exists in this format is making it easier for people to understand the concept.
Okay, so let's back up a little bit. So first of all, let's define psychological safety. So, and why it's important within organizations. And then I'll talk about how the episode captures it so beautifully.
Well, I don't want to give the book definition, but I want to give the practical how it works. It works when someone feels safe to make a mistake, to be able to contribute fully to conversations and things that happen in the workplace without fear of saying the wrong thing for like having the wrong feeling about it, and then not feeling safe to then put themselves out and be vulnerable in future instances. So the fear that if they say if they fail incorrectly, that they're going to be punished for it. So feeling safe to make mistakes, to try things, and to be vulnerable.
That's right. Yeah, I like to think of it as the more it's about giving your team permission to share not only their big ideas or creating this space, I should say,
Yeah.
where team members feel safe not only sharing their big ideas, but also something that might be considered offensive, that or a missed opportunity or
Mm-hmm.
a gap. All of these things are important benefits of psychological safety, or seeing the and people on your team sharing their big ideas, catching things that could go wrong. And
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a really big correlation between psychological safety and inclusion, because psychologically safe work environments really give employees the sense that they can be authentic in all of the ways.
Yeah.
Authentic to bring their true selves to work, their full selves to work, to show up as they are, and also again to share their ideas and the missed opportunities or the gaps. So there's a correlation there as well. And I think truly inclusive teams are psychologically safe teams. So,
I agree. Yeah.
and we see that within a lot of the organizations that we work with, that psychological safety is a really big problem. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the expert on it, neither are you, and I have a friend with a book coming out called Leading Below the Surface. Latanya Wilkins wrote a book on that coming out pretty soon. So we'll get more information on that as it comes up. Anyway, all this to say, Ted Lasso. Ted Lasso's episode called Man City, which came out a couple of weeks ago, a week and a half ago. That episode models psychological safety. It shows how it works. And one of the first triggers of it is when a leader or a manager shares vulnerably about the mistakes they've made, the fears they have, the previous errors, whatever, in their past, in their present, the stuff that's going on, the stuff that works, the stuff that hasn't worked. When a leader starts to do that, other folks start to do the same. And in this episode of Ted Lasso, Dr. Sharon talks about some of her fears vulnerably because she's a doctor and she's
Hmm.
sharing her fears. And then Coach Lasso ends up telling his coaching staff that he's experienced panic attacks. And then the rest of the coaching staff starts sharing their own stuff. And so it's kind of a really nice model of how it all plays out. Obviously, a sped up model, but it's pretty cool to
Right.
see it.
Yeah, they have to
Spoiler.
fit it in what 25 minutes. I do. I mean, I think in general the show is positive for showing your being able to show your vulnerability in a space where, especially in a traditionally masculine, hyper competitive space, that you can, and especially for men to see that they can thrive in a way that doesn't require them to. And we can all thrive in a way that doesn't require us to put up these walls and shut people out of these things that make us human.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think it goes to show all of us have a role to play in creating psychologically safe workplaces. And
Mm-hmm.
vulnerability is a big part of it. So is curiosity, asking good questions to the people around you as well. So anyway, if you haven't seen, those of you who are watching, if you haven't seen that episode of Ted Lasso called Man City, highly encourage you to check it out because it's a really great way to sort of see psychological safety in action. All right, so the next story is about Denny's restaurants. So we don't actually hear typically, and I don't talk a lot about typically about psychological safety or about restaurants and retail. Retail a little bit more, but restaurants actually we don't you don't hear much about what they're doing in the DEI space. But it turns out that Denny's restaurants has been quietly doing really fantastic work in this space for I think over 10 years now.
20.
Over 20, more than
Yeah.
half the corporate board and more than half of restaurant managers are BIPOC folks. And so there's a great article in Harvard Business Review about what they're up to, but it's been really, really cool to see.
Yeah, I have memories of the mid 90s of their problems. Whether it was harassing black patrons or otherwise making it an uncomfortable space for people that weren't, um, I mean, frankly, weren't white. And so to see this feel good, I mean, yeah, it started from a bad place. It started from a crisis. But they put in the work over the last 2 decades to make changes that are positive. So, it shows two things. Number one is that a crisis may be a crisis, and we need to make sure to allow for folks to be able to fix their problems. But also, it shows that this process isn't an overnight one and done, have a couple of workshops and we're done. It's structural change that needs to occur, and you can still do so while being profitable and being a business, and make it part of your overall long-term strategy.
Absolutely. And I think the frontline component of this is important as well. I mean, I think a lot of companies
Mm-hmm.
with frontline employees, we don't see a lot of investment in them. There's more now than ever
Mm-hmm.
before. But Denny's is really investing heavily in their managers. They're doing a lot of training, and it's a true commitment because inclusion does require intention. And I think it's a really great model for other folks, other companies in that sector, in the restaurant industry.
Absolutely.
Okay, next up is Facebook. So Facebook has this new program, which I'm intrigued by. I will admit I'm not a huge fan of that company for a variety of reasons, but I do like this initiative. So their goal is to support small businesses that are certified as diverse enterprises. So whether they are LGBTQ owned, like my company is certified that way, or Black owned or Hispanic, whatever owned, they are paying accounts receivable of these businesses. to improve cash flow. So I'm just going to take an example. Let's just say my company, had some overdue invoices, takes a long time for companies to pay us, where cash flow is tight. I could theoretically upload an invoice, an unpaid invoice to Facebook. Let's just say, Twitter is a client. Twitter owes me money. I can upload that invoice to Facebook. Facebook would pay me the next day and then collect the money from Twitter. And so the goal is to improve cash flow for small businesses, which is a really big problem, cash flow
Yeah.
issues, especially businesses that do business with corporate. Managing that cash flow can be challenging. And so I really like this because it allows companies like mine to get paid faster and then reinvest that money into growing our companies. So it's pretty cool for that reason.
Yeah, I kept trying to read this, because I also have the same opinion of Facebook, and or mostly the same. And I'm like, where's the catch? What does Facebook get for this? And it doesn't appear that they get anything other than, it's a good positive PR move. I mean, it's $100 million, which is a lot of money to me, a lot of money to a lot of people, a lot of money to small businesses, probably not as much to them. And so for a very low investment for them, they get to reap this benefit. And honestly, it's doing a positive thing. So can't I can't fault it at all. And it's good to see that they're caring for the community at some level.
Yeah, so I'll tell you how what their benefit is that they're collecting 1% of all the invoices. So if I had uploaded my
Oh, I didn't see
invoice,
that.
then I would owe Facebook that 1% of the amount that they then pay. And all of this money is sort of recycled. So it's all in this one sort of general fund for
Mm,
businesses like mine. So that's the there's
that's the
always
catch.
something.
Yeah. I mean, but to have an overdue invoice to pay 1% to get it, as opposed to taking it to collections and maybe only getting 50% of the revenue from it, it's still a great thing.
That's right. That's right. Okay, next up, Upwork, which is actually one of my very favorite companies to watch. And if you don't already follow her, Dr. Erin Thomas, who's its head of DEI, is a really great follow on Twitter and LinkedIn. So if you can, October, if you see this and you can tag Dr. Erin Thomas or share her Twitter link, that would be great. But one thing that Upwork is doing, which is a really cool initiative that I think a lot of other companies are starting to do more of, is leadership development for underrepresented employees. So they have a new program specifically for underrepresented Black employees or leaders of color called Glow Up, and it's focused on support of each other, but also how do you thrive in a workplace that was not created for you? So it's leadership development, community, and also with a heavy dose of creating equity together and working
Mm-hmm.
towards that. One of the things I really liked about Dr. Erin Thomas's quote or description is that it is through each other, through quality time, through thoughtful interactions, through the magic and power of coming together that we figure out what we believe. So I absolutely love that. And I think that it's nice to see organizations investing more into their people, their leaders of color, and to their ERGs in general, their employee resource groups in general.
I mean, I like what she says in the second tweet. I mean, it's work isn't a place; it's a community. And I think that it leads to that whole concept of psychological safety. When you feel like you're part of a community, you feel safer. Like it just kind of all snowballs and goes together. So I really think that that's bringing people together in ways that are more natural and feel more community based is only going to get better. I mean, they bypassed it as a technical program or a training program, but it's a gathering.
Hmm.
It's not for the purpose of like learning skill X, Y, or Z. It's a purpose of getting people together. So that's really I feel so highly about community building.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And the last story for today is that in response to Texas's new abortion law, which is the most stringent and archaic in the country, Salesforce has offered to pay relocation expenses to any employee who wants to move out of the state because they have concerns about reproductive rights. So I appreciate this. We haven't seen a lot of companies making any announcements or policy changes or anything really. I talked a little bit about this last week, but we haven't seen much. I appreciate this is what Salesforce is doing. It's uh, it's not going to cost them a lot of money. It is good for PR. And I think it's just a really nice way to show that you support your employees.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm totally shocked. I mean, they've been pretty good company in a lot of different things that they have stood for and gotten in front of many other places that have been largely silent. So, um, you know, it's uh, I can't even speak to that Texas legislature right now. I mean, I have all kinds of other problems with them in addition to this massive issue. It just yeah, this is about joy. I'm really happy for Salesforce to take the lead on this, to take this stance, to signal to other companies that you can take a stance like this. You know, is it going? Could this cost them business that they lose because this stance? Possibly, but you know, they also they may not want that business. They might not want those dollars. There's plenty of other
Right.
dollars out there to get.
They're making a
So
lot of dollars.
yeah, they are.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Patty. Thank you to everyone who is watching. And by the way, I'll be back on LinkedIn Live tomorrow. So will you, Patty, and a bunch of other guests,
Oh,
because tomorrow Inclusive 360 comes out. It's my new book. I'm so excited to share this with you and the world. I think it can have a really big impact on organizations. And launch day is tomorrow. So we're having a special live launch party at 1 o'clock Eastern here on LinkedIn Live, also on my Facebook page. You can pre-order the book or buy it tomorrow, please, at inclusive360.com. Thank you so much for joining us for 5 things in, I guess, about 17 minutes. We went a little bit over today. And if you want to subscribe, get some good vibes in DEI, go to theequalityinstitute.com/join. Thank you so much and have a great rest of your day.